today we are speaking to Mr. Varun Gera, who is the CEO and founder of HealthAssure. Varun is one of the most well-known entrepreneurs in this space. Varun, thanks for speaking to us. You are, as part of HealthAssure, one of the successful startup stories of the last few years, especially in the context of the digital marketplace for services, especially health services. So for our viewers, could you please tell us a little more about HealthAssure's business model, how you got here?
Sure, Sam. Pleasure to be here talking to you. Talking a little bit about HealthAssure. So we are a health tech company. We've been around for 12 years. And we provide the largest basket of primary care to consumers, which could be either individuals or groups. So our clients could be almost all the insurers, very large, corporate clients, and of course, end customers. Consumers like this because healthcare ecosystem is very large and very complex. So for them to navigate the space for themselves and keep themselves healthy is a tough job. So our services kind of appeal to them. And we built this through having a strong medical network across the country, building a strong tech platform, building distribution to get access to consumers, and of course, operations, which is also fairly complex.
So Varun, talking about the taxation regime that applies to healthcare, as you would recall, there was an issue of cascading effect of taxes on OPD services during the erstwhile service tax regime. So there was a tax that was exempt for the clinical establishments, but because HealthAssure or any other app-based service provider is not a clinical establishment, there was a cascading effect of service tax at that level. Now, this is something that we had hoped the GST framework would address, but it's been 5 years and I believe that the challenge still exists. So what do you think can address these issues for the businesses?
So the issue is that the medical establishments, and these are the partners we work with, and they're exempt from tax. However, the services or the input services for them are not. That provides for the non-creditable, tax in the entire supply chain, leading to the customer. Once the GST regime came in, we are hoping that to be resolved. Though we can pay tax on the margin, but that's not always a very practical answer in a highly competitive world. So one option is that the medical establishment to be allowed to pay tax, especially for the group customers, and that will avoid the cascading effect of tax leading up to the customer.
So what I think legislators should understand is that if there's an exemption in the middle of a supply chain, that's actually worse for the end customer than if the entire supply chain was taxable. What happens is that the exempt entity does not get input tax credit. So that enters the cost stream of the exempt entity. And then they don't bill GST or service tax to the next person in the supply chain. But that person, if it's not exempt, has to pay GST on the entire value. So that's what we call cascading effect of tax. So that's something for the legislatures to think about. I think the traditional view is that health services are a terminal service given to the final customers. But clearly, with the emergence of companies like HealthAssure acting as some an intermediary between customers and competitive health services, that's no longer the case. So Varun, segueing into GST, we understand that in addition to OPD-related services, you as HealthAssure also bundle and resell insurance products along with your services. Now, of late, we see that the tax authorities have been highly sensitive, towards the activities of certain distribution partners of insurance companies. They have been questioning certain services received by insurance companies from them, and hence challenging the tax credit available on those services. Now, while your business is not directly impacted, since you are not subject to the same regulatory limits on commissions and brokerages, but being in this space, what do you think of the issue here? Do you think that there needs to be better alignment between, the regulatory bodies and companies are just getting caught in the crossfire?
So that's actually what has happened, Sam. This is something more recent. And I think the problem is more about, one is the coordination between the regulatory authorities and the other is being a little bit more practical, in terms of the business realities. Insurance is regulated, and as per the regulatory framework, or because of that, many of the companies have had to have some commission structures And that has kind of caused scrutiny, by the tax authorities. In no ways is there any evasion of tax or the intention of evasion of tax. In fact, the tax is paid in full. So, the fact that the ITC is being challenged despite the fact that the full tax has been paid. So I think this has caused a little bit of problem, or quite a bit of problem in the industry for now.
You're right. I think the issue here is that there are certain limits to brokerages and commissions that are imposed by the IREDA, the insurance regulatory body, and that is much lower than what the commercial reality is. And the brokers and the commission agents, especially the financial institutions which play a big role here, they can command a higher commission or brokerage, which is not capable of being paid by the insurance companies because of the regulations. Now, because of that, there is some structuring and certain other services are used, but that is earning the ire of the GST authorities because they think that it's just a way of getting input tax credit for the insurance companies. However, the reality is that even a GST is being paid even on those services. So ultimately, there is no detriment to revenue interests.
That's true.
So thanks, Varun. Thanks for your time today and your invaluable insights, especially from an industry perspective, on some of the issues that have been coming up under the service tax and now the GST regime.
And thanks, Sam. Pleasure talking to you today.